Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor. And I don't particularly know if anybody is necessarily asking for this test for a realistic buyer's guide shopping decision, but we still think it would be cool to go out and figure out what sort of realistic real-world highway EV range and fuel economy you can expect on the all-new BMW XM. In today's test, we're going to head out on the highway and drive until the electric range runs out, and then we're going to head out on gasoline alone and figure out what sort of realistic fuel economy you can expect with BMW's new flagship M SUV. For those of you who are unaware, this is coming out to compete with the likes of the Mercedes G-Wagon, as well as something like the Audi RS Q8. It's supposed to be a luxury kind of flagship showcase, if you will. And it's rocking some pretty big guns. 4.4 liter twin turbocharged V8 as well as a plug-in hybrid motor, giving you over 600 horsepower and over 550 pound-feet of torque. This thing is a lot of fun and pretty luxurious as well. If you do want to see more on it, see it a little bit cleaner maybe as well, check the link in the description. We've got a first drive review, a DM review with Chris, and a sound system test of the Bowers & Wilkins audio system. So without any further ado, let's get this thing unplugged and get rolling. We've got it all charged up here. This is going to be a real-world style test. No sort of preconditioning. This is just if you were to head out in your XM, hit the road, and run the battery dry, driving it as an EV, and then continue on, see what sort of fuel economy you get on gas alone. So before we actually start up the powertrain, we're going to restart our GPS. We're going to reset our trip computer as well. And before we start the powertrain as well, we're going to put it into E-Control. That should hold our battery for us to get to the gas station and top this thing off with fuel. Let's start it up. It sounds like the engine hasn't fired yet, but it should when we get rolling on the street here. And I can force it to start up by putting the car into S mode. There we go. And we do have 38 miles estimated by the vehicle right now, but EPA numbers actually aren't even officially out for this car yet, at least for range figures. BMW expects to see about, 30 miles per gallon in EPA testing, and that's for mixed driving, so that would be a little bit lower in the highway. So I expect that we might be able to squeeze about 30 on the highway out, but we'll see. And then the EPA figures for this car are not fantastic either. They haven't been published on the EPA's website explicitly, but if you go into the data spreadsheet that the EPA publishes at the bottom of their website, the XM is listed for only 12 MPG city and 17 MPG highway. I mean, that's pretty comically low, especially for a hybrid vehicle. It's pretty funny. I don't even think the X7 gets that low of fuel economy, but I'm curious to see what we're actually going to get here. A few other things to note: tire pressures have been set to their door placard, 38 psi front, 41 psi rear. Climate control set at 73 degrees auto, and the outside temperature, where we got that here, 56 degrees Fahrenheit, but that should warm up a good bit throughout the day. 5.447 gallons going in for our first fill. All right, when we head off from the gas pump here, we're going to leave in EV mode. So let's reset our GPS. M hybrid and electric. Start it up and we're ready to go. You don't exactly have drive modes in the XM, but you have a lot of different drive setups. So we, because we're in electric only mode, we have no sort of drivetrain settings available to us. But we do have an energy recovery setting that's set to max, and then everything else is just in comfort. About 0.3 miles from the gas station onto the highway here, and then everything after that should be highway running. We are going to try to turn around right about halfway through our charge level so that we get on back and try to negate the effects of wind and elevation change on our trip. But the goal of this test isn't to hypermile. We're not trying to get the best possible range and fuel economy for this car, but rather a realistic figure. If you just wanted to head out and travel at highway speeds as an electric vehicle, what could you expect to get? The XM has plenty of power from its electric-only drivetrain to get you up to highway speed. Nice and easy. the electric motor is actually behind the transmission, so you still feel the shifts in the car as you're driving. It does seem like our speedometer is reading a few miles per hour high, so we're gonna have to get up to actually 74 on the dash to give us 72 on the GPS. We've got an assisted driving mode that is activated right when you turn cruise on, and you can see it's steering for me around this corner. This should be a nice, easy drive. Set in at 72 miles per hour on the GPS. That should allow us to average about 70 over the whole test. Initial highway observations. These tires are a bit loud. We've been noticing that through most of our testing with this car. This car is the 22-inch wheels, not the 23s that come standard on the car, but even though this is a concrete highway and it's a bit louder, we're noticing over a lot of expansion joints hearing quite a bit of noise, but they're a pretty aggressive tire, so not too surprising there. Alright, well, I'm going to continue on with the EV portion of this test and catch you as we're about to run out of battery. The XM has already exceeded its EPA estimated, or at least BMW EPA estimated, a mixed driving number of 30 miles. We've done 32.7 at this point, still have a mile left of range according to the car. So impressive number there, considering that here at worst case scenario type highway speeds, in theory you'd be seeing lower than your EPA mixed driving number in the real world, but we're seeing over, so that's impressive. It's actually done better than the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid that we tested the other week. But it is a bit strange that the car is telling us we're averaging 1.8 miles per kilowatt hour, and there's just no way that's accurate, because this is only a 25.7 kilowatt hour usable battery pack, and we're we've only traveled just under 34 miles now. If we were to go off that number that the car's giving, that would be like 45 miles on EV only, which isn't accurate, but we just hit dash, which means our motor should kick in at any point, probably on this uphill section. 33.8, 33.9, 4. There it is, 34.3 miles traveled on electricity. That's pretty darn good. We did average 68 miles per hour during that test. Okay. All right, so again, beating the EPA estimate. We'll do some final calculations when we're stopped to see what sort of efficiency we really got. Definitely not the 1.8 miles per kilowatt hour that the car was giving out, but I think based on rough math, that should be somewhere between, what would that be, just over 1.2-ish, 1.2 miles per kilowatt hour. But either way, we're going to continue on for about 50 to 60 miles on gasoline here to get a fuel economy measurement and get back to you after that. Coming into the end of the highway fuel economy portion of the XM's highway test. Again, I don't know what BMW and the EPA are doing for the fuel economy numbers for this car, but from what I can tell, we're going to very much exceed that 17 MPG fuel economy rating for this car. Maybe that's some sort of preliminary number and it's going to be bumped up when it's officially published, but from what I can tell, we're getting a good bit above that. Now, I don't 100% know what the car is reading out because it's calculating the total fuel economy combined with how much electricity we used for our number. So like right now it's saying 38.5 MPG, but that's factoring in the first 34 miles that we did on EV only. But when I was watching the live readout, it seemed like we were well over 20 miles per gallon for most of the time cruising on the highway. But in just a moment here, I'll have an actual number calculated by filling up at the pump and going by the miles traveled. So let's see what we get. Other than that, I think this car's a little loud inside for a $160,000 car. Yeah, it's supposed to be sporty, but I don't know. It's a bit strange compared to what you can get in some other BMW SUVs. But the interior is really comfortable, excellent sound system. I definitely don't mind being in here. It's just something to consider when you're spending this kind of money. 2.328 gallons going in for our last fill. 52.4 miles was our total distance traveled on gasoline. So 52.4 divided by that, where are we at here? 2.328 gallons has given us 22.5 MPG. I think it might, hey, why not? Let's give it the benefit of the doubt bump. Let's bump it up 23. Actually, you know what? We shouldn't give it that benefit of the doubt bump because it actually got on the highway on electricity only. So let's bump it down 22 MPG. That's going to be a really safe number for this car. Still quite a bit better from a percentage wise, significantly better than its EPA readout. And I mean, it's something we're certainly used to seeing with BMWs is getting better than its EPA. Let's also calculate that electric efficiency real quick. We have a 25.7 kilowatt hour usable battery, and we traveled 34.3, so 34.3 miles traveled divided by 25.7 kilowatt hours. It's giving you 1.3 miles per kilowatt hour on electricity alone at highway speeds with some climate control running. Not too bad, I wouldn't say, considering the tires on this car and the fact that it's such a performance-oriented vehicle. We do have an 18.2 gallon fuel tank in here, so let's take that 22 miles per gallon times 18.2 gallons, giving you an effective highway cruising range of just barely 400 miles here in the BMW XM. So hopefully someone is interested in that figure. I know this is not the type of car that people are probably really pinching their pennies with, but some of you still might care about fuel economy, so there you go. Thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the BMW XM, check the link in the description. We've got a lot of fun videos, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.